Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the workshop on effective research proposal writing. Sorry about the delay in starting this program. To start the program, I would like to invite the Additional Director of National Science Foundation, Dr. Tamara Dias, to deliver the welcome address.
Dr. Tamara, you have to unmute your mic.
Good morning and thank you, Iroka. Dr. Sepalika Sudhasinghe, the Director General of the National Science Foundation. Our eminent management scientist, Professor Indralal from Colombo University, who is the speaker today, and the Head Research Division, Engineer Mahesh Isanayaka, and my colleagues and dear participants. The NSF annually make calls for research grants, and 1 or 2 calls we generally make, and then as a follow-up we conduct effective proposal writing workshop to give you some information about the requirements that NSF expects in the proposals. And this year we have planned 3 workshops in the series, and today is the 2nd workshop. And I must tell you that we have got, unlike previous years, we have got some directives from the ministry, and whatever the proposals we select, we need to submit to the ministry to get approval. So this has not happened in the previous years, but from this year it is so. So with our limited resources, last year we did not make a call because we did not have funds, and the previous year also to take the challenges of COVID-19, we made a call for COVID grants. And from now on, I think we have not made solutions to our problems. The economic crisis is becoming more and more serious. So we don't know whether how much money we will get to fund your research. In the previous years, the NSF had a lot of money, around up to 300 million rupees, so we could make different types of giving grants. So the situation has become so difficult. However, NSF, aligning to its mandate, we try to cover and fulfill our objectives, and with this objective, we are doing all our best. So what we want is actually to get proposals from you that deliver immediate results, considering the country's crisis. And I hope our eminent scientists will be able to look at the problem positively and make your claims to us positively. So with this small note, I warmly welcome Professor Indralal, our eminent management scientist, and I hope you will deliver good information to our young researchers especially. And I warmly welcome all of you, the dear participants, and with this note, I give the floor for the proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dias. Moving on with our presentations, first I will make a presentation on NSF research grant schemes. Yes. Good morning once again. Now, regarding the National Science Foundation is mandated the formation to conduct cutting edge of relevance to Sri Lanka and the society. The NSF Competitive Research Grant Scheme provides assistance to supplement resources available in the scientists' own institutions for research, development, and innovation activities. The aims of this scheme is to encourage researchers to utilize their knowledge for the benefit of the society, to facilitate researchers with postgraduate qualifications to enhance their career prospects, and to facilitate science and engineering graduates to pursue postgraduate research degrees. Grants are awarded in all fields of science and technology, including social sciences, management, and development economics. Now, this year, we have identified 15 priority research areas for research grants. They are eco-friendly agriculture, food quality and safety, post-harvest management, health and indigenous medicine, biomedical innovations, climate change, disaster management, waste management, water security, energy security, value addition to natural resources, community development and social innovations, management and development economics, applications of Industry 4.0, and biotechnology. Now, this is the format for our research grants. I'm sure most of you must have gone through this. I will not go through this in detail now, but if you have any clarifications to be you need answered regarding our grant application, I will do that during the general discussion time. Coming to our guidelines regarding investigators, the principal investigator should have a postgraduate research degree, a PhD or an MPhil, and publications in the relevant area. Applicants with MSc, MD, or MS qualifications should have a minimum of 1 year research component in their course and publications in the relevant area. A co-investigator should have a postgraduate qualifications and research experience supported with publications. Any other member of the research group who does not meet these criteria could be listed as collaborators. And these collaborators should provide letters of consent in the format we have given in the Annex 3 of our application. Those who wish to read for postgraduate degrees under this project are not eligible to be co-investigators. We request all investors to be registered in our STMIS database. The institutions and the recommendations. Institutions where the research is to be performed, there will be a principal institution. Usually it is the principal investigators institution, and other institutions. Sometimes if the research is being done partly in 2 institutions, you have to mention those. And also you have to get the recommendation from the head of the institutions of all those institutions. So when you get signatures from if the PI is from university, you have to get the signatures of head, dean, and the vice chancellor. In getting this, you have to, because this time we are entertaining only the soft copy of your application as last time. So you have to get a printout of the signature page, get it signed and then scanned and sent to us. Please do not use any e-signatures in the grant application. And this authorization is only for some applications where if there's involvement of human subjects or animal subjects, then you need ethical clearance. If you need to collect samples from wildlife reserves or forests, you need permission from the relevant authorities. Or if samples are sent abroad for analysis, then you need material transfer agreement. If such case is there in your research project, then you need to provide authorization from the relevant institutions. Now, if I talk about resource planning, you have to, once you identify the project objectives, I think Professor Indulal will be explaining to you regarding how you plan your research project. So once you identify your project objectives, you have to break them down into small tasks and subtasks. Now, these tasks are activities that must be completed to achieve each of your objectives. The tasks have start and end points and are relatively short and significant. To identify the timeline for each task, once you have identified your task, you can then prepare your Gantt chart as well as your budget. To prepare the Gantt chart, you have to identify a timeline for each of your tasks. Some tasks can be done concurrently, while others have to wait for the previous task to be completed. And then accordingly, you prepare the Gantt chart. And also, once you have identified the task, then you can list the resources that are needed for completion of each task and estimate the quantity of each resource and prepare the budget accordingly. Now, this is, this is given in this picture where once you have identified the activities, then you can prepare the work plan and then also the budget. And according to the work plan and according to the time, you can also see whether the budget is adequate. Now, coming back to a Gantt chart or the work plan, it is a visual project planning tool that gives an overview of the project. It is simple to understand and easy to construct. They're used to represent the timings of tasks required to complete a project. Each task takes up one row and the date and time period runs along the top. Tasks may run sequentially in parallel or may be overlapping. This is used to monitor the progress of your project. This is a small example of a Gantt chart. This is a very simple Gantt chart where on this side you have the activities and on this side you have the timeline. You have to break them down into smaller tasks. I'm just given here general activities, but you break it down and then prepare the Gantt chart. Talking about the budget, now NSF will provide funds for personnel, consumables, sample analysis, statistical analysis, travel and subsistence, postgraduate registration fees for research student, and miscellaneous. Now, it is very important that you avoid overestimation and include only the necessary items. And you must justify your budget in detail in our application. When you prepare the budget, it has to be in line with current NSF payment rates. Research personnel, full-time research students registering for a postgraduate degree can be allocated only for principal investigators with 2 or more years of post-PhD research experience. Technical assistants can be either with O-level or A-level qualifications. For principal investigators who have not received any research grants before, NSF or any other funding sources, the total budget should not exceed 2 million. And this is excluding the allocations for research personnel. Consumables, if you request consumables, you have to list them with the description and provide the quantities and the costs. Sample analysis can be requested if it is outsourced, and you have to provide details of the type of analysis, the number of samples, and the cost. Statistical analysis funding can be requested if it is outsourced. And then travel and subsistence should be requested only for field visits related to the project. And you must provide justification and give details of the place, distance, number of visits, and the cost, and provide the calculation for subsistence. Miscellaneous payments should not exceed 10% of the total budget. You can request items such as stationery, data storage devices, printing or photocopy, and for ethical clearance charges, etc. Here, I must mention that funding is not provided for consultants, drivers, OT and subsistence, administrative costs, payment for thesis defense panel, maintaining equipment, contingencies or unforeseen expenses, computers and printers for routine work, travel abroad, registration fees for overseas conferences or seminars, travel to NSF or COIS institution for meetings or advertisements. These are some of the common mistakes we have identified during processing of applications in previous years. Mainly, one is not following the guidelines. When you submit the application, please go through the guidelines. The guidelines are given under each heading, as well as there's a page at the end of the application which provides the guidelines. Please go through them carefully and stick to the guidelines that we have provided. If you have any clarifications, you can always contact us and we will provide any details that you need. The next one is mentioning names or affiliations in section B. We have specifically mentioned that in section B, you should not mention any names. So please refrain from doing that. Then figures and calculations given in the budget are inaccurate, or the totaling of the budget have not been done. And sometimes budget justifications are not given adequately. Also, requesting drivers OT subsistence from NSF. Sometimes the miscellaneous budget is over 10% of the total budget. And for requesting funds for contingencies and unforeseen expenditure. And sometimes the outcome is not clearly mentioned. We have asked for the outputs and outcomes in point form. And we don't want lengthy paragraphs regarding the output or outcome. You have to give clearly and in short form what the outcomes are. And then not forwarding through the proper channels, and supporting documents have not been attached, such as CVs and other authorization documents I mentioned earlier. If I give a brief overview of the application processing of these research grant applications. Once the application deadline is over, we process the applications through an internal screening and then send it for external review, 2 reviewers for each proposal. And then we, once they are reviewed, we obtain the recommendation of a technical evaluation panel, and then the recommended ones go through for approval by the Board of Management. And as our additional director mentioned, this time it has to go through the ministry approval system as well. And then we will be awarding approved grants depending on the availability of funds. Benefits of being an NSF grant recipient: if you submit a quality proposal, you will obtain an NSF research grant, and that will pave way for other grants schemes in NSF, such as international travel grants, OST, Overseas Special Training Program, the Nsf Research Awards, gap filling grants, technology grants, and other STMIS facilities. We have two award schemes, the Nsf Research Awards, which is for Nsf grant recipients who have attained a high level of excellence in their research work, and they are recognized for their contribution to the advancement of science. These are given annually for projects completed during the previous year. The final report has to be submitted within the given 3 months period, and it has to be accepted with a very good or a good grading. Now, you do not have to apply for this. We will select from our completed grants, we will select the grants that fulfill this criteria. The other award scheme is a support scheme for supervision of research degrees, or SUSRED. This is to motivate, support, and recognize scientists and engineers engaged in supervising students conducting research in all areas of science and technology leading to postgraduate degrees. This is also given annually, and here the applications are invited to an open advertisement. Thank you. That is the end of my presentation. So at the end of Professor Indralal's presentation, we can answer any questions or queries that you will have. Thank you.
Dr. Inoka, you are muted.
I'm sorry. Next, I would like to invite the Director General of National Science Foundation, Dr. Sepalika Sudasinghe, to talk on getting research into practice. Over to you, Madam.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Actually, let me thank all the team of the research, the division, head of the research division, and Dr. Tamara, and also the other doctors and the other staff, team of the team joined here today.
Dr. Sepali, you have become muted.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. And let me thank first the team from the Nsf, especially the research team and the research division, head of the research division, and the other team members around here to make this today's event a success. And also let me welcome Professor Indralal for today's discussion. I know you maybe with your busy schedule. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to support our researchers to develop their research proposals. Actually, from NSF side, I think you have heard enough our expectations and our intention, that is basically to support policy making, policy decisions of the country. So therefore, we expect from your side practical and applicable and more doable research. So that's basically our expectation, because we want to strengthen our decision-making process. So we know that research is a systematic approach where we have to be the scientifically prove and scientifically highlight the recommendations that you expect to make by the end of the day. So I'm glad that we have 20 the participants here, and I'm sure that Professor Indralal will help them to form their research proposals in a way that we can use the information and the findings by the end of the day, where we can integrate into decision-making process of the country. So basically, for policy decisions, basically, maybe towards analyzing our economy and making recommendations towards the economic development of the country. And finally, towards the well-being of the citizens. So with this brief note, while thanking again and again all, the Dr. Mahesh, Dr. The Tamara, and also Dr. Mahesh for being supportive, Inoka for being and thank you again, and we welcome all the participants of this program. Thank you. Over to Dr. Inoka.
Thank you, madam. Now, I would like to invite Professor Indralal De Silva to present how to write a winning. Professor Indralal, it's over to you.
Okay. Yes, I got it here. Good morning to all of you. Dr. Sepalika DG NSF and Dr. Tamara and Dr. Inoka and all other officials of the National Science Foundation and all the participants of the program. Well, I have been asked to prepare a presentation for development of research proposal. And I think I should tell you at the very beginning, I'm not an expert on management sciences, but I'm basically a social scientist, but I tend to teach in so many management programs, Kotalala Defense University, University of Colombo, PhD programs, and number of master's programs, private universities, various master's program in management. Therefore, I have a very good idea about what kind of research they tend to accommodate in their research agenda. But however, let me first upload my presentation, then you will be in a better position to by name, of course, I am Indralal De Silva, and I was the former dean of the Faculty of Arts, University of Colombo, and of course I have a number of positions in the Sri Lankan various organizations, as well as I have a foreign exposure, Harvard University, and also National University of Singapore, and also I have a National University of Singapore as well as Australian National University, where I have worked, and I have a large number of publications internationally. If you can just type my name, you can observe in the internet. Well, since I don't have much time, I will quickly move into the presentation part. Now, I have been asked to the basic objective of the presentation is to provide you basic knowledge on development of research proposal. Even though I have been asked to give a couple of examples related to the management, I will definitely do that one. But even you go for the management or any other discipline in social sciences, even law faculties, education faculties, even the social science faculties, more or less the same procedure we adopt to develop research proposals. But if you go for the medical science, engineering, of course, there are some significant differences. Therefore, having said that one, my task, I believe you are very clear about my task. But before I move into the presentation, let me ask from you, are you hearing me clearly? Am I audible to you? Inoka, are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, sir, we can.
Right. Okay. That's what I want. Otherwise, the participants will be in a difficult position. And also at the end of this presentation, I think we have accommodated the number of minutes, maybe 20, 30 minutes for your questions and answers or any clarifications. I can provide you some answers for that. Therefore, let me start from the very first slide where I am discussing about the research proposal. Well, any science, the research proposal or any grant application, research proposal seek answers to specific questions, objectives or hypotheses surrounding a recognized problem. Therefore, no matter whether you are moving to medical science, engineering, social science, or even humanities, what you have to do is that first you have to identify some particular problem. If someone say that I am unable to identify problem, then we can say that that particular person is having some problem. Because if you look at the country like Sri Lanka or the developing countries, thousands of problems exist. Health sciences to engineering to social sciences to humanities to any discipline. Hundreds of problems exist. Therefore, it is very important for you to identify appropriate research problem first. Therefore, after you identify research problem, then you can progress further. But even though I'm not asking you to make provide any answer for my question, what I'm going to ask right now. Therefore, question may come to your head now. How can I identify appropriate research problem? How can I do that one? Well, of course, there are a number of ways, but I think you have to answer by yourself. Number one is reading the relevant literature or talking to some of the experts who are knowledgeable about the subject matter. I think even after you identify a particular research problem, you need to continue your review of literature related to that particular subject matter or that particular research problem. Then only you can further refine your research agenda. Now, it depends on the various organizations, like what should be the length of a research proposal? What should be the length? Well, it depends. I think some of you may be doing masters, PhD. I'm pretty sure that most of you are doing masters and PhD and may be interested for submitting any particular grant for Science Foundation or any other university funding, or there are various foreign funding also available. Therefore, what could be the length of any research proposal? Well, it depends. Even you know that PhD program research proposals are 50 to 70 page long document, masters may be 5 to 10 pages long. Nsf document also, I think, fairly long document to fill. But I'm not going to discuss with you how to fill the Science Foundation research proposal document application form, but there are various items you have to know very clearly. Those items I will display to you very soon. Now, any research proposal should have a title page, and most of the research proposals require summary or abstract, synthesis, summary or abstract or synthesis. However, very short proposals, this is not required. Then the main text of the proposal in application form, definitely those things are in particular locations. You need to provide some introduction, or sometimes we call the background. That particular section that section should include a few important literature also. But you need to provide introduction. Then next important item is the problem statement, or what is the research problem that you want to study. And then rationale or justification, why it is important to study this particular problem. Then of course, most of the proposals will ask to some extent, okay, provide us with some literature a very standard literature, some experts' viewpoint about this particular problem. But some applications or the grant application, they don't have a particular section. However, you may have to provide some references definitely. Therefore, one way or another, the review of literature need to be accommodated. All these sections I'm going to discuss briefly, not in very detail, in subsequent sections. But after this review of literature, there are some other sections: research questions, research objectives. Depending on the grant application, some agencies may ask only the objectives. They may not ask the research questions. Actually, research questions and objectives are more or less same, but the way we write is only different. Hypotheses, conceptual framework. Some particular grant applications, they will ask, okay, what is the conceptual framework? How you conceptualize your entire study? Research design, or some particular grant applications, they may say it is a methodology. Because this word design basically comes from the science discipline, but in many social sciences, people tend to talk about the methodology. Since I know that Science Foundation will also ask the design, but design is a much broader concept. They're like a roadmap, but the methodology is the one, qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, approach, and those things are there. But however, I will discuss about the design and methodology later on. Then work plan and time schedule. Already Dr. Inoka mentioned about the Gantt chart and other things. I think most of the participants know about these things, and because even for the master's program, you need to submit your time frame, Gantt charts and other things. Even though you are not working according to that particular Gantt chart, as far as I know that, since I have supervised and they participated in various PhD to undergraduate level supervision, undergraduate oral examinations, hundreds I have participated for PhD levels. Therefore, I know most of the time people deviate from what they have mentioned. Reporting, monitoring, and evaluation. To some extent, that is carried out by the Science Foundation grant scheme. Institutional framework, I think you need to have some sort of institutional backup for your study. Resources, persons responsible, and the budget, already mentioned, references and annexures. Let me quickly go to one by one. I don't think I should explain about any research proposal should have a title page. Your research title should appear there, and name of the person or persons who is submitting, or at least the principal investigator, and the name of submitting organization. Suppose you are coming from a particular university, a particular government organization, or particular private organization, you better mention name of submitting organization, name of funding agency, in this case Science Foundation. But however, my presentation will not only discuss about the Science Foundation grant scheme, but even you can go for various like WHO and the UNICEF, UNFPA and various UN agencies and various other agencies are available in abroad for various funding facilities. And also date of submission, at least the month and year need to be mentioned in the title page. Now, I think most of the time, what I have observed in the master's, PhD programs and other grant applications, appropriate title. Your title should be eye-catching, and also the evaluators should very quickly identify what is the particular subject area that you are planning to study, and also the title should indicate what is the research problem that you are planning to examine. Now, I repeat, once you present your research title is something like your face. Research title in your research agenda is like your face. Everyone usually identify people by looking at the face, right? Usually. Therefore, in a research document also, research title is like a face. Everyone, read the title first and then go to the subsequent sections. Suppose your title is not very good, then it's a negative mark. However, your research title indicates what is the problem that you want to study. Examiners or evaluators will be very happy to read your research proposal. Therefore, title must be complete enough to explain what the proposal is about. And then title should also contain keywords that will make the project more appealing to the funding agencies. I believe all of you know keywords. Now say, for example, in the management, if you are studying labor turnover, organizational behavior, suppose you take the labor turnover, right? Now, if you are not very happy to incorporate that particular concept, labor turnover, how many words that you have to use in your research title to explain that particular concept? Maybe 6, 7 words. There are voluntary labor turnover, the involuntary type of labor turnover, right? Labor turnover and then moving into another place. All kind of ideas are there. However, why I'm saying that you need to incorporate keywords, technical words, your project proposals are not going to be evaluated by laymen. They are the subject experts. They know all the keywords, technical words related to that particular subject. Once you accommodate keywords, technical words, the title of your project proposal is short. Otherwise, if you go for a very long title, sometime I have seen some long title, something like 4, 5 lines long. Therefore, once I read the first line and move into the last line, I can't remember the first line, right? Sometimes you may say that is depending on your age. Well, however, it is very, very important for you to write the appropriate title, not a very short one, not a very long one. Probably after you typed it in a A4 sheet, in an appropriate font size, maybe 13 or 14 even, it should not run more than 3 lines. It should not be less than 2 lines. Therefore, best titles are 2 to 3 lines long. Right? 2 to 3 lines long. Now, I want to ask one simple question from you, all the participants. I think, Inoka, roughly about how many participants are there? About 30 or 28 or how many? You are the one I should communicate quickly.
29, sir.
How many? 20?
29.
29, okay, almost 30, okay. Therefore, even though since we have only 1 hour, I don't think I should ask questions and expect your answers. But you need to give the answer by yourself, but you better write your answer in your any sheet. There are 2 titles. Number 1, Solving Literacy through Commentary Reading Improvement Program. That means one research is saying that I want to establish some small libraries in order to eradicate the illiteracy from this society. To eradicate the illiteracy, don't think that to eradicate the literacy, right? To eradicate the illiteracy from a society. Therefore, I want to establish some libraries for that purpose. That idea is captured in the first title. Second title, Determining Village Women's Potential for Operating Community Reading Centers, a case study of Wanraga district of Sri Lanka. Now, second title is basically indicating that we require labor from the women, where we can expect volunteer labor to run these small libraries after we establish, after we construct them. The whole idea is there, where the geographical location of these libraries are there, but which title you prefer? Some of you maybe prefer number 1, some of you may be number 2. But definitely, if you consider the research point of view, number 1 is not focused. It is not very clear. the direction of research. But second one is very clear. We want to find out the potential of the women to support our library. Once we establish to what extent we can get the support from the women to run these libraries. The place is mentioned. Therefore, second title is better than number one. I'm not saying second one is perfect, but second one is better than first one. If you have answered the second one, you are in a better position. But if you have answered number one, you need to think about your own capacity. You need to improve. Introduction and background. Well, background section, you need to provide adequate enough information to lead to the problem statement. Even though in the introductory section, you are not presenting the research problem directly, but related to that particular area you have to present, right? Suppose you take any particular film. Suppose the burglar is trying to enter into a particular house and now he is approaching the window. Then the musicians will start producing particular type of music pieces. Why? The thief, the burglar is now near the window, is now opening the window. But he is still not entered into the house, but he is near that. Therefore, musicians will start providing some musical pieces to highlight that event. In like that, burglar entering and burgling that house is the key message, but background is he is still not entered, but he is about to enter. Therefore, research problem will come later on, but you need to provide some background information where you can present your problem statement very attractive, very attractive. Use literature. Now that's what you have to do in the introductory section. Use literature to explain exact nature and extent of the problem. Don't oversell the problem. Don't oversell. Now, since the management people are there, therefore they may be thinking that supermarket sales or something. No, don't oversell the problem. Don't talk too much about the problem. Just very little related factors only. Why? The problem statement, just next section. Statement of the research problem, problem statement, or various names are there, but it's basically statement of the research problem. You need to provide clear statement, description of that. To some extent, analysis of the problem, problem analysis. You need to describe why it is a problem. COVID-19 was a real problem in any agenda, social, cultural, economic, health, even humanities, musicians, film industry, all kind of areas were largely disturbed, right? Why it is a problem? But COVID-19 is a very broad area. But if you are coming from the humanities or management, there are various issues with the international trade too, labor turnover. Now we are observing in many countries. Sri Lanka, you will observe very soon that sizable number of young workers, they will leave the workplaces. Why? Excess of labor will be removed from some of the workplaces. Because as you know that some of the medium and small sector entrepreneurs, they can't get the raw material. Therefore, they have no option. They may remove some of the workers. That is already happened. Therefore, you'll observe the increase of unemployed people, unemployed youth in the country, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, you need to explain. Of course, these are to some extent related to the COVID-19, but there are some other reasons also. What is the problem and why it is a problem? The extent, the gravity of the problem you have to explain. Sri Lanka, the gravity of the problem is very, very serious. Whatever the problem, you can think about it. The people and the areas affected, large number of people affected, male, female, largely males are affected. Cost to the public, cost to the government. You can study as mentioned by Dr. Sepalika, you can think about the policy issues here. There are policies, say for example, virtual employment. Now transportation problems are there. We have all kind of what you call private vehicles are unable to use. There's a kerosene, the petrol issues are there, diesel issues are there, electricity issues are there. Suppose you go to the workplace, no power, but virtual employment is one of the best thing to enhance in this environment. But in Sri Lankan context, I didn't see any kind of improvement in virtual employment. One may say that our labor is lethargic and all shortcut people, therefore virtual employment will give you more relaxation and so on. But monitoring and other things are required. Most of the countries now go for this, particularly if you even look at US, flexible time working hours and virtual employment for large number of women, because Sri Lankan women participation in the labor is very, very low. COVID-19 has further depleted that. Therefore, virtual employment is another very good area for, but you need to manage it well, manage it well. To some extent, universities and various private organizations, we are conducting Zoom lectures, Teams lectures online because we don't have other options. This virtual education will continue for some time, but employment, I didn't see that much except IT people. Except the IT people, virtually all other platforms are very much low employment categories concerned. Now you need to think about your problem statement, rationale, justification, fundamental reasons of your research, describe the significance, and also explain why it is important to study in this particular point. Why it is important to study. What are the benefits of that? We can reduce some cost, right? Definitely for the institution or for the particular country and so on. Also, for example, if you take renewable energy, even though I know that for many, many years we were trying to, energy security is concerned, solar power, wind power, and even if you go to the various European countries, nearly 6 months they don't have solar power. Even you go to Norway, Sweden, for 6 months solar have established very good solar cells. Everywhere they can turn that to sun. Even the very light sunlight is there. But country like Sri Lanka, almost 12 every day more or less sunlight is available. But our policymakers and people who are engaged in that particular study areas, they are every time very much reluctant to go for solar energy and other renewable energy packages. Why? You need to study that. Why? But even the coal countries, they are using the solar cells very productively, right? Tropical country like Sri Lanka, very poor in that agenda. Why it is so? What kind of policy changes we require? And also why it is not happening at a significant level. Research questions and strong linkage with the problem. Let me first again say, what is the research problem? Problem is identified as a broad topic that has perplexing or troubling aspects that can be solved by accumulation of relevant information or evidence. Renewable energy problem, how to manage this energy security. Are we going to stay without energy for another 1 or 2 years? Or whether we tap all other resources we have. Therefore, we need to study the problem, energy security issues. I think energy security was the priority list, right? Priority list also. There are policy issues. Research question. Concise and describes exactly what issues the research intends to acquire information about, right? Research questions are in question form. But research problem is not in a question form, right? There are some junior researchers has this problem sometimes. Even we ask the research problem, they write a statement with a question mark at the end. Question mark with the statement comes the research questions, as it is mentioned. Now, if you take one simple example, this present day we are having this problem very seriously. What is the impact of this research question, right? What is the impact of use of social networking sites in workplace during working hours on job performance? Because we know that particularly young people are heavily engaged in social networking. It has some advantages, but a lot of disadvantages also. What is the impact of use of social networking sites in workplace during working hours? You can say during working hours on their job performance. Job performance. Write down research question for virtual employment. Right? If you want what I said, you can write down a research question for virtual employment. A case study of Sri Lanka. Why Sri Lanka is failed to a great extent. Same like renewable energy. Why Sri Lanka is failed. But many other countries, even India, Singapore and Hong Kong, Japan, US, many European countries I have seen by myself, flexible time or virtual employment is a very common practice, particularly for group of women. Their maternity, child rearing, caring, and other things are concerned. Unfortunately, we don't have time for go for the practical work. I usually do in most of my PhD, MPhil, master's program with many students. Now, something I want to very quickly tell you, the research question and objective problem. I'm not going to detail too much, but I believe you understand. I'm presenting a problem statement as well as a couple of questions. Tourism industry consume a large quantity of valued raw materials such as energy, water, wood, plastic, etc. It is very common. Tourism industry, local tourists and foreign tourists, particularly local tourists, use a lot of energy. They use all the lights, all the towels, 3-4 towels in one room, they use all the towels. But then you need a lot of water. Plastics, they throw it away, bottles everywhere. To some extent, some foreigners also, but not much them, but the local tourists are the common. As a result, environmental pollution is increasing day by day. Sri Lanka also we are observing the same problem, along with the tourism industry, local and foreign. Research questions. Are the organizations or the authorities in tourism industry in Sri Lanka aware of green HR practices? Green HR. How to maintain our environment in a sustainable or in appropriate way. Glass bottles and educating not to use all the towels in the bathroom, education. What are the green HR initiatives undertaken by the organizations in tourism industry? What is the knowledge about that? What is the attitudes about that? And to what extent they have practiced that one? And what are the barriers for them to practice that? There are various agendas are there. Their attitudes, knowledge, practice. Even the tourist hotels may be practicing that one. To what extent the tourists are knowledgeable about that? Are they having any positive attitudes about that? All need to be educated for that purpose. But to what extent it is happening? The question. Objectives. Objectives are specific statements about exactly what the proposal is about. State the objectives in terms of results a project is expected to achieve and not how these results will be achieved. Good objectives are measurable. There's something called SMART objectives, right? Good objectives are measurable. How to state objectives? Most of the time, even for PhD level also sometimes, candidates are finding difficult to write the objectives. You need to use active verbs when you are writing objectives. To examine, to determine, to compare, to verify, to elucidate, to identify, to develop, to what? Can someone tell me, any participant? Can you tell me to MEA? I put dots. You are brave enough. You should be brave enough to talk to me. I might have talked to you, I might have taught you in some particular program. To MEA, the small couple of letters are missing. To what? Anyone? Next one, to X. Next letter X, EXP. Any participant? I don't think undergraduates are very silent in any university when we are teaching, except the medical students who might taught, even in the medical faculty. They are very good, but many other undergraduates are very silent. But I don't think you are not the undergraduates, you are postgraduate. Can someone tell me? Can you fill the few letters here? To what? To MEA? Anyone?
To measure?
To measure. Very good, very good. Other one, to EX, third letter P. EXP. What is that one?
To explain?
Not to explain. Don't use the word explain. To explore. If you are doing
Sure.
a bit of qualitative work, to explore. Right? Very good. Unfortunately, I don't have time to ask who are you. Avoid non-active verbs. You should avoid that one. The word you mentioned, you have to avoid that one to explain. It is not, well, some people tend to use that one, but it may be not very appropriate. To appreciate, don't use. To understand, don't use. To study. Many people tend to use to study. Even the title of your research, to study blah blah blah. Don't say it, because you are already doing a study. Why should replicate the same word? Smart objective, smart, specific, measurable, achievable kind of ideas are there. Now, I don't think you should be able to find out which objective is much better than the other one. Number one objective, to better the ongoing national language program, to better. Second one, to identify factors facilitating or obstructing women's participation in community reading centers, operating community reading centers. Second one is well-focused and clearly mentioned. But to better mean what? It is not an active verb. It is not used in the research. To better than what? First objective is very bad one. Second one is better than first one, definitely. There's something called overall objective and also specific objectives. Sometimes people use the word aim or the purpose, like overall idea, right? Overall idea to assess the impact of use of social networking site in workplace during working hours on job performance is the overall idea. What are the specific? To identify the employees who engage in social networking during working hours. First, we have to identify and to what extent they use social networking during office hours. To compare the average productivity level of them, right? Who are heavily engaged in social networking with the rest of the employees. One may argue that those who are engaged in social networking, their productivity is better than the others. Some researchers has found in some research. But to Sri Lankan extent, we don't know whether the workers who are engaged in social networking, they are better than people who are not using social networking during office hours. What is their productivity? Hypothesis. Well, I will give you example for you. It is a statement. You will come up with the null and alternative, but at least you need to present alternative one. I think those who know the statistics, you know the hypothesis idea. It's a bit statistical idea. I don't want to explain more, but one hypothesis you can develop for my previous one. You can say that workers who engage in social networking their productivity is higher than the people who are not engaged in social networking. Therefore, that is something we need to test. Why? You want to test that people who engage in social networking, their productivity is better than others. But you require the information, data for this one. Well, review of literature is another part. You need to think about those who know the master's PhD level. There are 3 levels of literature: theoretical literature in social sciences, but not much in the medical and other sciences. Theoretical literature is less, of course, they have some principles and theories. But in social sciences, of course, they have if you go to the management science, there are so many theories. Theories on leaders, organizational behaviors, so many theories, productivity, and so many. Theoretical literature, and also there is something called methodological literature, and also empirical or more applied literature. Literature comes with 3 levels: theoretical, methodological literature, and applied literature. Most of the time people take the applied literature, but you need to think about theoretical literature also. But perhaps grant applications, theoretical literature may be not that important because you are identifying very practical problems. But if you can mention theoretical, because your conceptual frameworks and other things may be based on some theoretical literature. Because those who have developed the theories, they are the experts. Therefore, you need to identify the expert viewpoint about that. Critically evaluate the literature. You need to relate it to your proposed research problem. Therefore, you need to work hard to study the problem. Literature is required. Synthesize. You need to compare, contrast the literature. But if you, I know that most of the time you are listening to a particular presenter, you are sleeping. Undergraduates particularly, or engage in something else, but postgraduates, of course, much better. You can see a particular picture, particular song, or particular drama. I'm skipping other one, no need for you. Hypothesis, giving one example. Worker satisfaction leads to higher productivity. Or male hostelers consume more alcohol than the male non-hosteler is very common in university as an administrator. I have seen as a dean and also maintain a lot of administrative positions. I have seen in the hostels empty bottles, the boy hostels. They consume more alcohol than the non-hostelers, males who are coming from their parents and relatives and so on. You can test this one, or you can test the management related one. Research design. You can read this idea in a textbook, but I am not going to discuss very detailed. Design, the logical and systematic planning and directing of your research. The design results from translating general specific project model into various research procedures intended to obtain answers, right? Research design and methodology. As I told you, the design comes first, much broader idea. The roadmap is a design, right? Blueprint is a design. The important part of the research design is the methodology. Methodology describes the methods to be employed to achieve specific objectives. Therefore, design, what is design then? In sciences or there are even social science, if you consider the designs, there are designs like descriptive type design. Your study is largely descriptive. Some social scientists, even management, qualitative kind of studies at the undergraduate, sometimes descriptive type of research. But analytical type of research is the most important. Analytical. To identify a problem and study that problem in order to give some solution for that problem, at least some partly some solution. Designs are concerned, there are cross-sectional study designs are there, cross-sectional. At the question and answer time. You can ask me any question if you are having cross-sectional study. There are longitudinal, or sometimes we call follow-up study. There are panel studies, kind of ideas are there. Science, it is very common, these follow-up studies, longitudinal, but in social science, that kind of studies are very less. There are prospective studies, retrospective studies. Prospective means looking at future. Archaeologists, historians look at the past. Retrospective. Prospective means present to the future. Energy crises are going to be more serious for the future. Global warming is going to be more serious because of the world is now having almost approaching 8 billion people or 8,000 million people. Their consumption, luxury life, and so many other things. So many other things are there. There are measures, tools, and research decisions, various questionnaires, various tools you may be using for to measure the water quality, or there are so many tools are there. Now, very briefly, I'm not going to discuss these things in detail. To collect the data in terms of methodology, quantitative people go for experimental research, but not much in the social sciences or in management studies, but there's something called experimental research designs. There are quasi-experimental designs are there. Again, these two are fairly common in sciences, but quasi-experimental designs are possible in social sciences, but very common action research in social sciences. Action is inbuilt to the research. That's why we call action research. Action is inbuilt to the research. Some research is very, very common. Medical science to engineering to social science, humanities, banking, management, any discipline, survey, questionnaire filling, asking questions, very, very common. Evaluation research is also there. Unfortunately, monitoring and evaluation is one of the areas so poor in Sri Lanka. Whatever the development we carried out, no monitoring and evaluation. That's why Sri Lanka became very, now we approach to the very difficult situation. There are, of course, other designs are there, other quantitative tracer studies and so many designs are there. What type of data you require? What is your data requirement? If you go for the qualitative research, well, there are qualitative researchers go for case study, case histories, key informant, observations, ethnography, focus group discussions, participatory research, etc. There are many more, of course, qualitatively, and however, the best one is the mixed methods approach. Mixed methods approach. But not too many methods, but you are saying that complementing each other. Of course, in a methodology, you need to mention the limitations. I'm not going to separate slide I have mentioned here. Under your methodology, apart from your design, methodology, data collection techniques, sampling, and so on, you need to mention about limitations. I'm not going to talk about sampling, study populations, sampling techniques, and so on. Limitations and analysis. What kind of analysis are you planning for? Monitoring, reporting, monitoring, and evaluation is important for the grant organization, granting organization. Reporting, will the results of the project publish and whether that can be used for any policy formulation. I think as Dr. Sepali mentioned, Sri Lanka is very, very common. Even though I can tell you one simple example, even though I have done and published number of articles about saying this particular slogan, premature retirement, but longer life. The Sri Lankan live much longer, but retiring at prematurely. Some are retiring at age 55, some are retiring at age 60. But however, we had discussions with some government authorities, pension department and so on. But my clear idea I presented, we should not increase the retirement age until up to 65. It is better to increase until up to 62, as many other countries have done, and see what are the implications. And then if you want, you can increase further. But unfortunately, as usual, government has declared that government authorities until up to 65, boards, corporations and other things until up to 62. But I can observe some of the boards and corporations like universities adopting for the lecturers, of course, 65, but lecturers again are asking until up to 70 years of age for retirement. But of course, it is only demand. However, university non-academic staff, they also receive now 65. Whether it is reasonable to increase directly 5 years without understanding repercussions. Therefore, Sri Lanka is very common, not understanding research information and making very haphazard kind of policy decisions, program, directly implementing something. Therefore, researchers need to come front and say that what need to be done, right? And most of the researchers are very silent in Sri Lanka. Even, of course, we don't have very top-level researchers in this country, but even a few they are not brave enough to mention something straightforward manner. Right, monitoring and evaluation process with support the program throughout its implementation. Aim of evaluation is to measure outcome and overall program effectiveness. Of course, you can study this one because my time is I am passing. Evaluation is a crucial part of the proposal methodology in terms of hypotheses, testing, and attaining objectives. Now, budget. I am not the expert on budget, but you can check with the Science Foundation. I usually don't worry about the budgets because I tend to do research without any budget. That's how I publish internationally. Because some of the researchers, every time they are hunting money, that's a problem in Sri Lanka because many universities also same problem. But there are some researchers directly go for, research and do international publications. Okay, I think I am almost end. References and applications, appendices. References are very important. APA style, Harvard style. I can't remember what kind of referencing you required at the Science Foundation grant. It may be Harvard or APA, definitely one of these two. And then good luck for your, and in conclusion, persuading means bringing people to over your side. The best way to this, through strongly written proposal which contain arguments that carry enough weight to overcome any resistance. Therefore, writing good proposal will help you to develop your career. If you really require some money, you can get it. But every time, don't wait for the money, but you do start research. Say, Dasa manufacturers, one of the very good industry, Duro shirts and other manufacturing, but due to political changes, totally destroyed that manufacturer. Therefore, Sri Lanka is suffering that kind of bad policies, economic policies. If you take Kalini tires, cement manufacturing, Pesali, Vachelani, so many industries were there. Wrong policies and wrong implementation without not knowing what they are doing, the wrong implementations. Therefore, that's why all kind of problems now we are facing now. Therefore, it is not one particular government that and this one. The wrong policy making decisions related. Therefore, you can select one single case or you can take multiple cases. Like suppose you want to study labor turnover, qualitative manner. You can select 20 cases and study them. The labor turnover during last 6 months, but don't take last 20 months, 20 years. Take last 12 months or 6 months. Common exposure. I believe you understand. Common exposure. Reference is last 6 months. 20 cases, multiple case studies. You can study labor turnover. You may select voluntary labor turnover and involuntary also, right? Those who retired, they are not labor turnover, no. Therefore, I believe you are coming from the management discipline, yes or no? Our male person, brave male person asked the question, are you coming from management?
No, science.
Sciences, very good. Natural sciences? Sciences mean what kind of science?
Yes, natural sciences.
Natural sciences, right, okay. See, even though it is targeted for management people are very silent. Any question?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, right. Oh, okay, others? Do you want to ask any question? Otherwise, you can say that whatever I mentioned is not very clear. But I don't think it is true, because I have received my evaluation from any institution. No question coming. I think therefore we can promote them to the probably parliament. If they can send these kind of people to the parliament, at least we can have a silent mode. That's
You
what
can
I say.
also type your questions in the chat box.
Can you read them, if it is possible?
Yeah, no.
You are asking them, yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling them
Okay.
to.
Okay.
Because there's one question regarding, I think it's directed to us. Is NSF grants open for private sector organizations for research? Yes, we do accept applications from the private sector, but then it has to be, we have a separate guidelines for non-state sector organizations. They also have to contribute with funding. So it will be partial funding from NSF. The guidelines are given for non-state sector at the end of our application.
Therefore, you're saying the counterpart funding is required, is it?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. But is there any percentage like 50-50 or any kind of?
It's like 30-70.
30-70. Therefore, private sector 30, NSF 70 or vice versa?
Yes.
Right, okay, right.
Dr. Sandanayaka, if you don't mind, will you be able to show the slide on common mistakes done by the applicants? I had a connection failure, so I couldn't see it properly.
Okay,
yes.
I can reduce this one. Yeah, you have to, I will remove this one, then you can, you can,
I hope you can see it now. These are some of the common mistakes that we have found. Is my slide visible?
No.
now it is possible, no, is it?
Yes, we
Now
can
visible.
see it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So are there any other questions?
Mhm. If they're having any question to the chat box,
No, sir.
no. Therefore, I think
I think seems like there are no questions to the presenters.
probably I might have explained too much.
So it's very clear, so they don't have any
No.
questions.
Therefore, every time I should make sure that confusing statement need to be presented.
Okay, so then shall we wind up here because it doesn't seem to be any more
Sure.
questions.
Sure.
Now I would like to invite head of the research division, Engineer Mahesh Disanayaka, to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Inoka. I think we had a very full session. I'm sure that all participants will agree with me. I think within a very short time period, Professor gave a brief presentation, but elaborated where needed. So I want to, first of all, I want to thank today our resource person, Professor Indraldi Silva, from Department of Demography, University of Colombo. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation and accepting our invitation and done a very good presentation for the those who intend to apply for the research from NSF. Thank you very much again. And I would like to thank all the participants, those who have attended today's meeting, and will expect you will apply for a research grant from NSF. And I want to thank those who support to success this workshop. This is the second workshop of three in a series. So DG NSF, thank you, madam, and also Additional Director NSF, thank you, madam, and Dr. Inok, our CRD coordinator, and also all the senior scientific officers of Research Division, and other staff from the NSF. Again, I want to thank our IT manager, Mr. Madhav Pereira, for his cooperation, arranging all these IT-related activities. Again, I want to thank Mr. Vasanta Anuruddha and his team from STAPRD for their support when we organizing this webinar series. So thank you very much all those who have helped to success of this workshop. Again, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. Thank you, everyone. We have another program on 6th of May. I hope some of you may even join that. Thank you and a good day to everybody.
Okay, then thank you. I'm leaving, right?